When my mom was asked what she does for a living by her fiancé, Ken's dad, she said, "I'm self-employed." As soon as she said that, Ken's family started laughing, like they couldn't stop. Andy, Ken's younger brother, looked at me with a lot of dislike. I could never live like that. I can't imagine living that way, especially for those of us in the medical field, Andy said. Ken's mom frowned. I felt angry and wanted to say something, but before I could speak, my mom, who is usually calm, stood up and said coldly, "I see. I withdraw my recommendation for medical school." That shut everyone up. My name is Jane Brown, and I'm 26 years old. I work as a Japanese teacher at a public high school. After graduating from the Faculty of Education, I live a happy life, and after work today, I plan to have dinner with my boyfriend, Ken Smith. "Hi Jane, you must be tired after your day," Ken said. "No, you must be tired too," I replied. Ken graduated from medical school and is now a resident doctor. We met 5 years ago in a university club and have been together ever since. Ken is kind and faithful, and he's been a great support through difficult times, like studying for national exams and job interviews. As the evening at the restaurant was coming to an end, I was thinking about how nice the place was. Then Ken said seriously, "My training is almost over. Will you marry me once I'm a full-fledged doctor?" Ken proposed and gave me a ring. I was so happy. I told him, "Ken, I'm overjoyed. I'm sure we'll be a happy family and an excellent couple." I tried not to cry and happily accepted his proposal, hoping it would make my mom feel at ease. My mom, Michelle, raised me on her own after my father passed away when I was young. She has always been loving and kind, the perfect mother to me. When Ken and I told her about the proposal, she gave us her heartfelt blessing. "Congratulations, Dan. I'm so happy you're marrying such a wonderful man," my mom said with tears of joy. I replied, "Ma'am, thank you for raising me. Now, I'll do my best to take care of you." Ken, seeing how happy my mom was, said, "Please don't worry, ma'am. I'll make her happy." I was happy to see them getting along, and then I added, "I also need to meet Ken's parents." Ken smiled and said, "Thank you. I grew up away from my family, but I'm sure they'll be happy to meet you. Just make sure you greet your family as well. They'll be your relatives from now on." Ken comes from a family of doctors. His father owns a private clinic, and his mother is a housewife. He also has an 8-year-old younger brother. I hoped his family would like me. Ken assured me it will be fine. I'll book a table at a restaurant for the meeting. "Yes, I'm looking forward to meeting your family," I said, confident that our future would be filled with happiness. 3 months later, the day for the family meeting finally arrived. Ken's family arrived a little late, and as my mother, Ken, and I waited in the restaurant, we got ready to meet them. Ken introduced us. "I'm Ken, and this is my fiancée Jane Brown, and my mother Michelle." Then, Ken's dad introduced himself. "I'm Tan, and we own the Smith Clinic. This is Kelly, my wife, and our son Andy, who's in high school." Ken's family, being doctors, were well dressed. Andy, the younger brother, was casually dressed in his school uniform, chewing gum. After introductions, Ken said, "I'm thinking about marrying Jane." Ken's father stroked his mustache and said, "Well, let's start getting to know Jane and her family." Ken's mother looked at me with a serious expression, as if judging me. Ken's father asked, "Your father isn't here today, is he?" I replied, "No, I don't have a father. My mom raised me on her own." He seemed surprised, then said, "Wow, really? A single mother family?" He said it in a rude, judgmental tone and looked at me with an arrogant expression. I felt upset and asked, "What do you mean by that?" I added, "My mom raised me by herself, and I'm very grateful to her." Ken's mom tried to intervene, saying, "Andy, you should be careful." But Andy turned away with an exaggerated, unhappy look. Ken's mom asked, "So, Dan, are you a high school teacher?" I nodded. "Yes, I teach Japanese at a public high school." The Smith family started talking among themselves. "A teacher? We don't have a teacher in our family," they said. "You're a liberal arts major, which isn't right for Ken. You should have become a doctor like him." Being a public school teacher sounds poor. We don't care about that. I have a recommendation for medical school at a private school. I was shocked, and Ken raised his voice. Jane is a wonderful person who works hard and has ambition. Don't talk to my fiancé like that. Ken's father stared at my mom. I don't approve of you marrying a single mother who's a teacher. And what kind of work does she do? She tries to dress well, but what's her job? My mom quietly responded, I'm self-employed. The Smith family started laughing, as if they couldn't hold it in anymore. Your family must have been poor if you're self-employed and a single mom. Ken's father mocked us. What kind of store are you running? Ken, are you just going to take care of this poor woman after her money? Andy looked at us with disdain. I don't want to live like that. I can't imagine such a life for someone from a family of doctors. Ken's mom looked down at us with judgment. I was furious but tried to stay calm. My mom, who is usually calm, stood up and said coldly, I understand what you're saying. I will cancel Andy's recommendation for medical school. There was a moment of silence before the Smith family burst out laughing again. What authority do you have? How can a single mom and self-employed woman cancel a recommendation for medical school? Are you out of your mind? Ken and I stayed silent, looking serious. Ken's face showed pain. Then Tom, Ken's dad, stopped laughing and looked at Ken. As I mentioned before, my mother-in-law's name is Michelle Brown. Does that name sound familiar to you? Ken's father spat. I don't know the name of a woman who runs a small business and is a single mom. Ken's mom looked confused. Brown, isn't Andy's high school called Brown High? Andy's face turned pale as he looked at his mother. Realizing something, he didn't say anything, but his expression showed he understood. Hey, are you joking? The chairman, is it the same person who greeted us at the entrance ceremony? Ken's father and mother both shouted in surprise. My mother-in-law is the president and manager of the private high school you go to, Ken said, his voice sounding defeated. Yes, after my father passed away, my mother took over one of the best private preparatory schools where the children of rich families attend. I've been working as a teacher there, planning to take over the school one day. Why didn't you tell me something so important? Ken's father said, looking shocked. Ken replied, if I had known this earlier. And he looked completely shocked, his face turning pale. Before anyone could explain further, my mom spoke up. You called us poor. You insulted my daughter. What else do you have to say? My mom said quietly. She continued, if you send Andy to Brown High, you understand what I mean? Brown High is a prestigious school, and Jane's family has never needed money. Jane, who was trained to take over Brown High, is much better than me. Ken added, this isn't something to make fun of. Ken's parents became angry again. What? Just because you own a school, you think you're better than us? What's the big deal? Are you going to cancel my son's recommendation? That's unacceptable. My mother remained calm. For a medical school recommendation, we need the chairman's approval. Andy was a candidate, but fortunately, I haven't approved it yet. His grades weren't good enough anyway. Andy, who had been in shock, suddenly got down on his knees. Please, I haven't been studying since I got a recommendation. I won't get into med school. Please, chairman, don't cancel it. Ken's mother panicked. That's not good. Andy has to take over the Smith clinic with Ken. Yes, I even gave you a bribe. You can cancel the recommendation, Ken's father said, looking desperate. Ken and I were both stunned, and my mom frowned. Ken's father quickly corrected himself. I didn't mean to say bribe. Tom looked clearly dismayed at the situation. Kelly and Andy both turned pale. My mom spoke harshly. There are other students with good grades who want to go to medical school. Why did you recommend Andy? Were you giving money to his home teacher? No, it's a misunderstanding, Ken's father said quickly. We'll investigate this matter thoroughly. Everyone involved will be punished. Andy, getting angry, yelled, damn it, remember that old hack? His face turned red with rage. Don't talk crudely about my mother anymore, I said firmly. She can't expel you for bribing someone. Andy glared at me and snorted, clearly frustrated. Ken's parents, trying to take advantage of the situation, said, "Are you really going to cancel Andy's recommendation? If you do, we won't allow you to marry our son." "That's right. What are you talking about? You're dating the son of the owner of a clinic, and we don't want you marrying into our family," Ken's mother added. Ken, looking angry, called out to his hysterical family, "I don't need your permission to marry her. I'm cutting ties with all of you." Ken's family stared at him, shocked. "I've always known that you liked to brag about your family being doctors, but what did you say to my fiancé and mother-in-law at that important meeting? How did you behave? Do you understand?" Ken said, his voice combo-filled with anger. Ken's family was stunned, not knowing how to respond. "I was deeply ashamed to see how you treated Jane and her mother today. Giving bribes was an insult to all the other students who are working hard to get into medical school." Ken continued, "I despise you, both as a doctor and as a family. I no longer consider you my family. I will marry Jane and be happy, so please stay out of my life," Ken said firmly. Ken's parents were shocked. "What are you saying? You want to take over the Smith Clinic? If Andy doesn't get into medical school, there won't be anyone to run it." Ken answered without hesitation, "That's right. I won't take over the clinic. The university just offered me a position as a surgeon. I'd rather work as a surgeon than run the clinic. But if Andy gets into medical school, he can't take over the clinic." "What? Think again," Ken's father shouted. "That's right, Ken," his mother said, panicking. "I need you to take over. I won't have anywhere to work if you don't." Ken ignored his family's outbursts and turned to me and my mother. "Jane, Michelle, I'm truly sorry for what my family has done. I'm cutting ties with them. Please let me marry Jane." "Ken, don't worry about it," I said. "I didn't fall in love with you because you're a doctor. I like your personality, and I thought we could support each other in the future." My mother smiled at Ken and said, "Yes, Ken, you're right. I know you're a kind and honorable man. It's amazing that you'll be a surgeon. I support both of you and your happiness." "Thank you so much," Ken said, holding my hand and bowing repeatedly. Ken's family was speechless. "Jane and Michelle, let's go. We don't need to stay here anymore," Ken's father said. "Yes, you're right. Let's go," my mother agreed. "We'll be in touch about canceling the recommendation and the bride." With those final words, the sliding doors of the restaurant closed behind us. 1 year later, Ken and I were married and living happily together. Ken decided to stay in the medical department, and although he was new, he worked hard every day as a skilled surgeon. I'm happy to see that Ken is now doing the work he loves. Ken is now doing well, thriving in the medical field, which is what he always wanted. As for the Smith family, the bribe was confirmed to be true. The homeroom teacher who tried to get Andy into medical school was severely punished, and his recommendation was cancelled because of his poor behavior and grades. He later tried to get into medical school on his own, but failed the entrance exam. Now, he's studying hard for the exam again after finishing high school, learning what it's like to face challenges and understand how others feel. Ken shrugged and added, "It's good for him to learn." The Smith Clinic, which was run by Ken's father, started to suffer because of the arrogant attitude of Ken's father, the clinic's director. On top of that, Ken's mother was disliked by the nurses and medical staff because of her bossy attitude, causing most of them to quit. After rumors about the bribe started spreading, the clinic became the subject of mockery among their relatives and in the medical community. Eventually, it was decided that the clinic would close next month. As for me, my mother told me, "I want you to take over the school within 10 years, so now I'm studying how to manage a school corporation. My days are busy, but with the love and support of my mother and husband, my life is going smoothly."